The Battle of Potidaea in 432 BCE marked a significant military engagement between Athens and the Corinthian colony of Potidaea, set against the backdrop of growing tensions that would eventually escalate into the wider Peloponnesian War. Potidaea, geographically vital and strategically positioned on the Chalcidice peninsula, was a colony of Corinth, but simultaneously a member of the Athenian-led Delian League. This dual allegiance became a point of conflict, reflecting the broader struggle for dominance in the Greek world. The Athenians, wary of Potidaea's loyalty amid rising hostilities, demanded the city tear down its walls and expel Corinthian magistrates, perceiving the colony's allegiance to Corinth as a potential threat to their regional influence. The significance of this battle lies in illustrating the fragile balance of power and the network of allegiances in ancient Greece. The siege of Potidaea was not an isolated event. Rather, it was deeply intertwined with the larger geopolitical landscape, exemplifying how local conflicts could burgeon into larger wars. This battle highlighted the Athenian imperial policy of exerting control over its allies, which was a precursor to the broader conflict of the Peloponnesian War. Real-world parallels can be drawn to any situation where a major power exerts influence over smaller states to maintain dominance, such as the Cold War-era's satellite conflicts. One opinion suggests that Athens' aggressive stance was a strategic necessity to maintain its empire. Others argue it was an overreach that precipitated further conflict. Contemporary historians often compare this to the concept of hegemonic stability theory, which holds that a single dominant power can bring order to the international system. It can also provoke smaller states into conflict out of fear or self-preservation. However, this aggressive policy was controversial and not without its challenges. The siege put Athens at odds with Corinth, escalating tensions among the Greek city-states. Critics argue that Athens' demand for complete control over its allies heightened hostilities, undermining their autonomy and fueling resentment. The Battle of Potidaea serves as a microcosm of the broader themes of alliance, power, and resistance that define the era. It set the stage for the Peloponnesian War by straining relationships between the powerful city-states. The Potidaean resistance was emblematic of the Greek desire for autonomy, serving as an early catalyst for the wider conflict to come. The motivations behind the siege of Potidaea, a Corinthian colony, by Athens in 402 BCE can be understood within the broader context of the escalating tensions leading to the Peloponnesian War. The siege was a critical move by Athens in seeking to strengthen its influence and control over the region, driven by both strategic and political imperatives. Athenians feared the potential rebellion of Potidaea, influenced by its Corinthian origins, and sought to preemptively suppress any uprising that could threaten Athenian dominance in the Delian League. Moreover, Potidaea's key location on the Isthmus of Pallene made it both strategically significant and economically valuable, granting control over trade routes and regional communication lines. This siege is significant as it marks a crucial point in the series of provocations and confrontations that eventually spiraled into the Peloponnesian War. The Potidaean conflict underscored the widening rift between Athens and Corinth, highlighting the greater struggle for power in the Greek world between Athens and the Peloponnesian League, led by Sparta. The actions at Potidaea magnified hostilities, contributing to the suspension of diplomatic ties and igniting greater regional conflict. Historically, Athens' demand for Potidaea to break its ties with Corinthic, typical example of the city's burgeoning imperialistic ambitions. This was mirrored in similar demands made by Athens upon other city-states to ensure their loyalty. Additionally, Potidaea, as an embodiment of the classic colony-metropole tension, also illustrates how imperial policies can challenge cultural and political ties, leading to profound shifts in alliances. Opinions defending Athens' motivations often cite the necessity of maintaining balance and control within the Delian League to deter Spartan aggression. However, others criticize Athens for its imperial overreach, which some believe hurried the path to war by antagonizing the Corinth. This reflects the debate over whether Athenian actions were precautionary or provocatively ambitious. Controversies surrounding the siege focus on whether Athens' actions were justified self-defense or aggressive expansionism. The situation illustrates the classic dilemma of security versus dominance, whether states act primarily to protect themselves or to extend their power. In influence, the siege connects to broader themes of imperialism and interstate rivalry, reflecting the cycles of power struggles in the ancient Greek world. By examining the motivations behind the siege, we gain insight into the precursors of the larger Peloponnesian War and the intricate web of alliances and enmities that characterized Greek politics at the time. The siege of Potidaea exemplifies how localized conflicts can escalate, serving as a microcosm of the tensions that ultimately led to war. The key players and alliances in the context of the Battle of Potidaea refers to the principal actors and their intricate networks of relationships, which played a decisive role in the conflict between Athens and the Corinthian colony of Potidaea in 400 CE to 132 BCE. This battle was part of the larger Peloponnesian War, a protracted and devastating conflict that embroiled much of the ancient Greek world. The main players included Athens, a powerful maritime empire, and the Corinthians, who supported their colony, Potidaea. Athens was allied with the Delian League, a coalition of city-states with shared interests and tensions, while Corinth was part of the Peloponnesian League, dominated by Sparta. Understanding the key players and alliances is critical as it sheds light on the political tensions and strategic interests that fueled the battle. This confrontation was not merely a localized skirmish, but a spark that contributed to the broader conflict between Athens and Sparta, underscoring the fragile alliances within ancient Greek geopolitics. Such alliances were rooted in a complex web of diplomatic and military interests, which compelled smaller states like Potidaea to become flashpoints in larger power struggles. One notable example is the alliance between Athens and the Delian League. This coalition was essential for Athenian imperial ambitions, but also provoked hostility from rival states, ultimately escalating into war. Conversely, Corinth's support for Potidaea exemplifies the solidarity within the Peloponnesian League, highlighting how alliances could reinforce regional identities and mutual defense commitments against Athenian expansionism. Some historians argue that the rigid structure of these alliances contributed significantly to the war's outbreak, suggesting that this interconnectivity was as much a source of stability as it was a harbinger of inevitable conflict. However, others posit that such alliances merely reflected the strategic calculations of city-states unwilling to succumb to Athenian control, representing an assertion of political autonomy. The alliance's delicate balance meant that any breach, perceived or real, could spiral into wider confrontations, as seen in the Potidaea siege. Challenges to this dynamic included the inherent instability in maintaining cohesive coalitions amid shifting loyalties and interests. Additionally, the interpolis rivalries often led to betrayals and realignments, complicating the political landscape. In conclusion, the alliances and key players during the Battle of Potidaea not only played pivotal roles in this specific conflict, but also deeply influenced the nature and progression of the Peloponnesian War, as their actions reverberated throughout the entire Greek world, laying the groundwork for further political and military developments. The chronology of the siege events refers to the sequential unfolding of incidents during the Battle of Potidaea, where Athens besieged the Corinthian colony of Potidaea in 432 BC. Understanding the chronology is vital, as it provides a structured narrative that helps us grasp the battlefield's dynamics and comprehend why this siege was pivotal in the broader context of the Peloponnesian War. The timeline of events showcases the strategic maneuvers and decisions made by both Athens and Potidaea, which echoed throughout the larger conflict between Athens and its adversaries. The significance of this siege lies in its reflection of the rising tensions between Athens and Corinth, contributing to the outbreak of the Peloponnesian War. Chronologically dissecting the events reveals the Athenians' strategic persistence and Potidaea's defensive resilience, highlighting the complexities of ancient warfare. By following the sequence of events, we understand how the siege impacted subsequent military encounters and political decisions, setting the stage for prolonged hostility in the Hellenic world. One real-world application of studying this chronology is its use as a case study in military academies. Analyzing the timeline aids military strategists in understanding siege warfare tactics and the importance of supply lines and fortifications, still relevant in modern military strategy. Another example is its educational application in history courses, illustrating the consequences of strategic decisions within the broader tapestry of human conflict. Scholars and historians often emphasize the importance of chronology in providing clarity and context to historical events. For instance, renowned historian Thucydides detailed the siege in his works, lending credence to its methodical examination. His analytical approach supports the idea that understanding the flow of events is crucial for deriving insights into cause and effect in historical conflicts. However, challenges arise from discrepancies in ancient sources, as they may present conflicting timelines or biased narratives. Differing interpretations of key events can lead to debate among historians regarding their significance. Some may argue that the siege's impact was overstated, or that alternative focusing on diplomatic rather than military analyses might provide different insights. In relation to the main topic, this chronological breakdown connects to themes of alliance dynamics and strategic persistence seen throughout the Peloponnesian War. By understanding how Athens managed the siege, we gain insights into their broader military strategies and geopolitical ambitions, ultimately painting a detailed picture of Athenian imperialism and its ramifications throughout Greek history.